We light this chalice for our children and youth, and for us celebrating the flame of faith lit in each of us, honoring the light each of us brings into the world, rejoicing in the community we create together.
So one of our UUA staff members, Shannon Harper, came up with a story for our times, and it relates to what congregations are experiencing these days. And so I'm going to ask you to help imagine how it is with your creativity and your body. It's an experiment. We'll see how it goes. It might work. It might be, or what we call an experi-fail. But no matter what happens, we're going to learn something together. Once upon a time, we were keepers of a beautiful garden. There were some things in the garden that were so wonderful, like the shade of the big tree. Mary, would you be our big tree? Okay, well, maybe you could stand up here. There you go. In the breeze, you know. What other good things are in our garden? What? Come on up, be a bush. Yeah, what are good things? Flowers? Come on up, be a flower. Grown-ups are welcome too. The last time I told the story, I only got grown-ups. Yeah?
I think some owls are flying around your garden.
Owl, would you be an owl? Who would like to be the labyrinth? What do you want to be? Rabbit, right? We got rabbits.
Awesome. There's another one.
Yes. Yep. What would you like to be? Yeah. What are good things in our garden?
Dirt.
You want to come up? You can. You don't have to come up if you don't want to. Okay. So what about our labyrinth? I know people really here love the labyrinth. Who could be the labyrinth? You have to look very complex. Oh, the owl's in the tree. Whoops. Rabbit, you have to not go under my feet. So what are some things that were just okay? And what are some things that maybe we don't like? Like maybe there's some poison ivy in part of the garden. Who could be poison ivy?
Oh.
So Yes? Oh, look, poison ivy. You got a few lines of that? What are you, Kate? Are you also poison ivy? All right. Robert, I need a picture of this, man. Okay, so one day there was a flood. Flood. Who's my flood? Diane. And the flood washed nearly everything away. So I need everybody to come over here except the tree and stand over here. All right. Oh, you're into the flood, I can tell. This is excellent. Some things were strong enough and sturdy enough to stay, like the big tree, and the birds in the sky could still be around. But poison ivy, it flooded. Its roots got too wet. Don't leave, Matt. We could still use you in a minute. So much of it got swept away. So much. But what was left in place was rich, dark earth, fertile and full of nutrients and things that were brought up with the rising water and left behind. And while the waters were receding, we grieved the loss of our garden, and we looked around at the land. We began to heal and prepare ourselves for the work of replanting. For a little while, we just had to focus on surviving, like finding enough food and fresh water. Sometimes we had to rope off an area that had just too much damage, and it had to rest. We put a sign up that said, "This ground is resting. Please explore the path to the other side." Slowly, we began to realize that we now had an opportunity to design something really amazing. The garden still had the tree, and we still had a river, but now we had more fertile ground. We could design and plan something that will serve everything that still remained. So instead of maybe a too tall, slippery playground equipment, we decided to have a swing hanging from the tree. Would you be a swing now? There you go. And maybe we would build something new, like a bridge over the river. What else could we build now? Oh, wait. Good job. Whoa. Excellent bridge. Yay. So what else could we put in our garden now? The rabbit came back. What could we put in? A big bucket of worms. Everybody needs worms. We wouldn't have food without worms. You could go like this.
We can plant marigolds so that they could help any other plant that grew next to them grow.
We're going to plant marigolds so that they can help the plants that are next to them. What else can we have in our garden now? Garden gnomes. Would you leave a garden gnome? Oh. A hose. Yes, garden hose to water when we need it. The rabbit came back. So in the future, our garden won't look, you can let go, Bridge, if you're... Our garden won't look exactly like the one before because we are changed.
Birds.
What?
We need birds.
Books. There you go.
Ones that
Birds.
worms and bugs.
Yes. All right. More birds. So the garden won't look exactly like it was before because we are changed. We are changed by the flood. Our needs have changed. The land has changed. But we know it can be everything we need if we listen to what our hearts tell us. We have to go slowly because it takes time to heal. We might even have to stop and rest for a bit or change something that we thought might work out at first, but then found out it didn't work. But with each new step, we will rejoice because of our accomplishments and especially because we are doing it together. Thank you to all the participants. Wow. Thank you.
You did a good job doing great.
And what a lovely garden they made. Our reading this morning is It Matters What We Believe by Sophia Lyon-Faz. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into a wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life.
One second. Good morning. I am Mary Barnes, a proud member of the RE Committee and the of the RE Committee. This is in my way, I can't read. Religious education has always been an integral part of life here at UUCY. From its early beginnings in the Springettsbury House to the growing programs of the 1960s and 70s and 80s, our children have been lovingly cared for with beautiful handmade braided rugs created by Charles and Char Conrad for our classrooms, and hand-painted murals by Anne-Marie Hober and Nicole Pauling, nurturing and valuing our children and youth. Although times have changed and our numbers have fluctuated, the mission to nurture has never changed. As I have only been involved in our RE program for 8 years, I would like to thank Molly March and Deb Lord for providing me with information on our rich history. In 1953, there were 29 adults and 26 children that met in individuals' homes. The congregation then moved to the YMCA. The congregation bought the house on Springettsbury Avenue in 1971. There were classes in what had been bedrooms on the second floor. As we outgrew those, there was a fund drive in 1986 to provide more space for the expanding RE program converting the attic into classrooms. When we bought the current property, we sold that building. The carriage house existed. While the sanctuary building was being constructed, we met at the Crispus Attucks Center for approximately 2 years. They kindly let us use their space at no charge. During that time, our RE program was run from boxes, transported each week from the carriage house to Crispus Attucks. The carriage house fire in 2000 occurred not long after the sanctuary building was complete. RE classes were in the new building, so it was not greatly affected. A trailer was parked in the sanctuary lot to house the minister and office while the carriage house was repaired. Over time, the RE program has used the 5 sanctuary building classrooms and also 3 rooms in the carriage house. Currently, we are using 3 and 4 classrooms in the sanctuary and 2 in the carriage house. At first, children were only at intergenerational services. Then they were included in the first part of the service once a month, then every week. On some weeks, they would have a children's chapel instead of attending the main service. But now we are blessed to have the children with us each week for Time for All Ages, and a monthly multi-generational service. There have been many shifts and changes over the years with different ministers, RE directors, RE attendants, etc., not to mention COVID and its impact. We are striving now with our dedicated, small but mighty RE committee and our dedicated teacher volunteers to rebuild our program. To quote Helen Paglio, our RE chair, from her stewardship speech last week, "The energy and life that children bring to our community is clear and beautiful. The spirit, passion, and drive that our youth exude both empowers and humbles. The ongoing investment in the children of our congregation is an investment in the future of our church."
Thank you, Mary, for your reflections on the history of the program of religious education here at UUCY. So it's always been my opinion that the Time for All Ages, and indeed worship itself, should work like the Muppet Show, engaging to everyone, understandable words and drama that even the youngest can grasp, a few funny sight gags, some singable songs, and deeper meaning for those willing and able to investigate. So it comes as no surprise that this morning's Keepers of the Garden story has many layers. It could be about an actual flood, a change in minister or staff, a building change, or a pandemic with building closure and move to online or multi-platform worship. You have been through so many changes over the past few years. So let's all take a big breath and let out a collective sigh. So the urge to restore the good old days immediately is understandable, but it's wise to take our time and reflect carefully on options that are open to us. It may turn out the path that you take may be very different from the way you've perceived how things should be. Some strong oaks, some strong beech trees appear obvious. An engaging minister, dedicated staff, tireless volunteers, and they are at this congregation, your amazing building and amazing grounds, the actual large tree in the garden, and your love for our faith and community. Some things may have shifted and may have worked out the best for sure, even though change can be discomforting. Multi-platform worship is considerably more work than only in-person worship. It draws staff and volunteers from other tasks. And yet, we've found we can better serve those who cannot be present with us physically on Sunday, and we're able to reach out far and wide to both presenters and worshipers. It does seem sad that families have been slow to return to us, yet they especially need time to heal and adjust. The challenges of parenting through a pandemic have been daunting. Parents must weigh each step, each event, each outing as to the amount of energy required and the risk involved. So religious education is perhaps one of those marked off garden areas that needs a bit more time and creativity for restoration. As the RE team has worked through the year, they have strived mightily to keep the curriculum rotation schedule, including offering OWL or Our Whole Lives. And they look forward to presenting more levels of OWL and coming of age in the year to come, along with the regular religious education offerings. They are doing absolutely fantastic job. And yet, I'm sure they yearn for the return of a consistent director of a religious education as their work partner. So the amount of staff time that you will be able to engage such a person will depend in part upon the success of this pledge campaign that you're in. I don't have to remind you, turn in those pledge cards. So these trying years have been challenging on many levels as we continue to deal with the ebb and flow of COVID and other pandemic-type illnesses. It has kept our attendance at much lower levels than you have historically experienced, particularly among children and youth. Educators across the country are just now seeing a resurgence in our congregations. It's a good thing. My reflection today is mostly based on a workshop called Emergent Strategies in Liminal Times, in Threshold Times. And we'll be covering a lot more of that in this afternoon's visioning workshop. And it uses the principles from the Emergent Strategy series by Adrienne Marie Brown, who spoke at last year's General Assembly in a conversation with UUA Faith Development staff member Shannon Harper. The 12 principles that Adrienne lays out in brief language are: small is good, small is all. Now, we're larger, but the nugget of community and relationship is in that small relationship, small groups. Change is constant. There's always enough time for the right work. There's a conversation in the room that only these people at this time can have. Find that conversation. Never a failure, always a lesson. Trust the people and move at the speed of trust. Less preparation, more presence. What you pay attention to grows. Begin by listening, create a culture of celebration, and release perfection and relinquish judgment. That's the hard one, isn't it? Many of the participants in the workshop that I attended recognized similar patterns in their own congregations, the striving to get back to the strategic growth plan, and then coming to realize that grief is not linear, that presence matters more than preparation, and that we are in exactly the right place and time to build something stronger together. So Shannon developed something she calls the LAP, the Liminal Action Plan. It's a format based on the notion that in sports, you have to warm up and take some laps before you get into the game. We are in such liminal times, meaning we are on the threshold of the future, but not quite back to full speed yet. The characteristics of this healthy plan are that it is temporary, trauma and grief informed, responsive, relational, playful, efficient, shared, and forgiving, especially forgiving. As your RE team looks forward to creating this future path, your input is solicited about both your historical experience of the program and your current experience, both for what you appreciate and what seems to be missing, your hopes for the future. Information gathered in the visioning today will help the board move forward with their search for new religious education staff. And even if you cannot participate this afternoon, I'd like to issue an invitation to let the RE committee know how they can best suit your family's needs. And it's not an empty invitation. They really want to know. It's truly important for you to let us know when you are satisfied with the program and when you are not. There's no way of knowing how to improve the program other than getting feedback. If you bought shoes that fit perfectly, you would go back to the store to buy another pair perhaps, and you might tell the owner that you love those shoes. But if you buy shoes that fall apart and don't complain to the owner, they won't know if you stopped coming because of bad shoes, or because you moved away, or because you wanted to commune with nature through your bare soles. So please, be conscientious religious consumers. Of course, you have to be forewarned. If you have a good idea, the committee might ask you to help implement it, and so it should be. We are really a cooperative congregation. The volunteers teach, chaperone field trips, help in the nursery, and provide sweat equity on work days. Most of them will tell you that they get as much pleasure and education as they give, maybe more. I like to think of engaging with the religious education program as being a spiritual arsonist, lighting fires in people's souls. Summarizing Roberta Nelson's essay, The Teacher as Spiritual Guide, is this quote: "The teacher who listens and hears, who affirms and challenges, who questions and encourages questioning, is the heart of our program. We can overcome resistance to teaching with a vision that engages and supports teachers in their own spiritual search. We must make manifest the miracle that we know happens when teacher guides engage with young people, with co-leaders, and with themselves. They become a pilgrimage that grows ever deeper and feeds their souls. May it be so for all of us." Thank you.
Ready? We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free.
Hallelujah.
We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Pain and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We are freed of every need.
Hallelujah.
We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Show with love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. And freedom is our cry.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Give thanks, for we are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we start a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not yet known, for we are the ones we have been waiting for. Go in peace.